Welcome to episode 12 of the Christian Heart Podcast. These are encouraging stories that show how everyday people live out their Christian faith in very unique ways. Not everyone can be a Billy Graham or Mother Teresa, but we each can display our love for Jesus in our day-to-day lives. It may be little things, but they could have an eternal impact. In today's episode, 4 people will share their unique ministry experiences, ranging from a homeless shelter, a hospital intensive care unit, a sound booth in a church, and a prison. And all of the stories you're about to hear are true. First, a story about opportunity. Opportunities are funny things. They can be good or bad. Some are welcomed, others not so much. Ministries are also opportunities, sometimes embraced, sometimes not. But all ministry is intended to serve God's kingdom. So here's the story of one broken-hearted mom and the ministry opportunity that resulted from her unspeakable loss. The story is called A Ministry I Never Wanted.
I thought I knew what it meant to follow Christ and to take up my cross. But over the years, I have learned that God often gives us ministry opportunities that we've never asked for and certainly never wanted. When my heart was broken as a young single woman, God gave me a ministry I never wanted. He gave me a group of women with broken hearts to come alongside. Ministering to other single women was incredibly rewarding, but also vulnerable and painful. Years later, God called me to a new ministry in the cardiac intensive care unit. I never imagined spending 9 months in a hospital with my very sick son. I remember holding him and thinking that once again, God had given me a ministry I never wished for. I can't say I did this unwanted ministry well on most days, but I have a few select memories of God working through my presence in this unlikely mission field. I held a mom as her son's heart rate fell to 0 and the code alarm sounded. I prayed for so many heart babies whom I would never have known without this season. I prayed for my own son and sang songs to him about our big God and told him about heaven. This was my ministry. I wouldn't trade this previously unwanted mission field for the world, no matter how painful. Now that we have lost our son, I find myself in a new ministry. I never wanted to be in the I Lost a Child club, nor did any of its members. Since losing Hudson, people have reached out to me because they or a friend have lost a child. I don't have solutions, but I am vulnerable and cry real tears with them. I simply hear their stories, share mine, and together we feebly try to see the hope only found in Jesus. I am honored that God would use my broken heart once again in the lives of hurting families to bring glory for His name's sake. For all of you stepping into ministry moments that you never wanted, God sees you, and He's equipped you, even if you never asked for it.
Up next on the Christian Heart Podcast, a formula that comes straight from the heart. Take 1 part former teacher, add 1 part kids from the neighborhood homeless shelter, mix with 1 part retired nun, and presto. A tutoring and mentorship program now offering programs in 14 locations to more than 250 homeless kids. Here's the story we simply call Tutoring Homeless Children.
I was 46 years old, and with my only child entering high school, I was praying about what I should do with the second half of my life. As a teacher and educator, I volunteered at my daughter's school, and one day I picked up a magazine to read while I was waiting for my next student. I was looking for a pumpkin cheesecake recipe in a magazine when an article called Lessons in Love caught my attention. There was an older lady standing there with a child, both holding school supplies and backpacks in their hands. It was Agnes Stevens, and she had started a program called School on Wheels in California. Agnes was a retired nun and school teacher who had been teaching school across the street from a homeless shelter. All the homeless kids would come to school without supplies or backpacks. Here was a woman who saw social injustice, wanted to do something about it, and just did it. As I was reading the article, it felt like God tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Here you go." I called Agnes and asked her how to start the program here in Massachusetts, and I did. We started in 2004 by working with 2 family shelters, giving out 50 backpacks and tutoring about 20 kids a week. By the time I retired as executive director in June 2018, we had 14 program sites tutoring over 250 kids and giving out 2,800 backpacks. I always knew this was too big for me, but it wasn't too big for God. There were lots of God signs that this was what I should do. I just had to listen for them. A mentor told me, "This is not your work, this is His work." I continue to serve on the advisory board for School on Wheels and still stay in touch with many of our students, some who have graduated college. I feel God has blessed me so much. I can't tell you how my life has changed.
In today's world, technology plays a critical role in communicating. And in a church, that's truer now than ever before. A church needs more than ushers and a collection plate. It needs a production team of video, audio, and music specialists who make it possible for people to enjoy rich worship experiences and meaningful sermons, even online. These are usually invisible people, the people who serve behind the scenes.
For a long time, I just went to church. I didn't want to be too involved because being out front is pretty scary. I don't know a lot of scripture or a lot about theology, so I felt I was pretty limited on what I could do. Then a friend asked me what area I serve in at church. I sheepishly told him nowhere. He was astonished. We talked a bit about me, my personality, and what sorts of things I like to do. Then he said the sound team was looking for more help. He said they trained me and I would get all the help I needed. It sounded pretty interesting, so I talked with the team leader. I absolutely love helping with sound. I love that I'm in the background, making sure the worship team sounds great and the pastor can be heard well. I love that I'm able to do this without anyone knowing I'm even there. That is, unless something happens, like a mic cuts out or there's some feedback. For me, serving as a sound guy is like what Jesus said in Matthew 6, 1-4. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets, to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward in full. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you.
Finally, today, here's something to think about that you may not have experienced. If you've never spent time behind bars, it can be hard to imagine what the total loss of your personal freedom feels like. It's discouraging, depressing, frightening, frustrating, and demeaning. And that range of emotions is the story behind our last story in this episode of The Christian Heart. An unforeseeable and unfortunate accident led this mother of 2 to a time of unwanted isolation, away from friends and family. Frankly, an experience most of us will never have. But in this case, the anguish of imprisonment gave life to a ministry of blessing for others. You'll hear more in this story we call Special Packages for Prisoners.
I would consider myself a pretty ordinary person. I'm a preacher's kid, married to a godly man, and the mother of 2 wonderful children. But a few years ago, I found myself in the last place imaginable, behind bars. I did not commit a crime or break the law, but an unforeseeable accident resulted in time away from my family. I cannot begin to explain how this felt. I was no criminal, yet I was being treated as one. Despite my circumstances, the Lord never left my side. He provided me with comfort and hope. After several difficult and extremely long years, I was joyfully reunited with my family. As a result of my ordeal, I have been given a desire to meet the needs, both spiritually and physically, of those behind bars. While away, I not only became aware of the spiritual needs of those around me, but I also witnessed firsthand the failings of the prison system. Most people assume that the state prison system meets the needs of the women in their care. However, this is not the case at all. Women are given a handful of necessary items once a month, including a bar of soap, a toothbrush, feminine products, and 2 rolls of toilet paper. I know from personal experience that this is not enough to meet their needs. So I joined with a friend in ministering to the women of the Washington County Correctional Facility. We collect personal hygiene products and present each inmate with a bag of much-needed extra items. This includes 1 or 2 Bible verses. The chaplain hands each lady a bag and does a short devotion with them. In doing this, we hope that we can be the hands and feet of Christ to those who know no earthly freedom. Jesus can be found in the hearts of people in our churches, in businesses, in homes, and yes, even in prison. In Matthew 25:35 and 36, Jesus himself reminds us, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, and you invited me in. I needed clothes, and you clothed me. I was sick, and you looked after me. I was in prison, and you came to visit me."
So from prisons to homeless shelters to neonatal intensive care units, ministries tend to be the glue that helps hold society and people together, filling in the cracks through which sometimes people slip. And it's funny how people in ministries connect. Some people go searching for a way to fill a yearning for service. Some people find ministry opportunities that have fallen right in their laps. God works with us in mysterious ways, and often that's the joy behind each of these stories on The Christian Heart. You may have stories of your own that others would enjoy hearing, or you may want to think about recommending someone be profiled. Check out our website at www.thechristianheart.com and click the button at the top of the page that says Suggest a Person. We'll do the rest. You may also go to any of our Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram platforms to read more of these stories or to learn more about our listener-supported ministry. If you like our encouraging podcast, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, or Stitcher, and never miss an episode. Look for another episode of The Christian Heart very soon. Thanks for joining us.